Hey, thanks for making it to the live event. For all of you out there, you may be watching on different platforms, different channels and so forth, whether it is VA Housing Education, Veterans Info Tap, the CivDiv, Veterans Daily, you name it. No matter where you're coming from, we thank you for your support. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. There is a big announcement out there, and we wanted to bring this to you not only because it just came out today, but also we wanted to share this information with you with David Piatek from VA Housing Education to shine a little light on what this announcement means to veterans, what it means to the general public, and maybe dispel a couple maybe misperceptions out there regarding it. So with that, again, thanks for watching. We really appreciate you. I'm going to kick it to David right now to go ahead and throw out there the big announcement. Now, keep in mind that we're going to dive into a bunch of different things that's hot and heavy in the world of VA. But first, we're going to dive onto this announcement because it just came out today, September 17th, 2025. David, thanks for making it on. We really do appreciate you. And it looks like already.
1 second.
Already, here we go. What's the negative news? What's the negative?
I have something in my eye, and I'm like crying, and so I look really awkward. I just want to preface that. Okay, so let me take care of that. David, go ahead, please.
You're good. Well, thanks again for having me on the channel. Yeah, so big news today. Obviously, the Fed has met, and they dropped rates by a quarter. Now, a lot of people have been, it definitely affects the broader veteran community in a couple ways. So one, the overnight rate's going to have definitely an effect on the HELOC. So if you have home equity line of credit, credit card rates, and car loans. So that's going to be a pretty significant impact on that piece. Now, a lot of people think that it will have a big impact on home loans, which it has a slight impact. So right now, they dropped it a quarter. So it doesn't mean that mortgage rates drop directly a quarter. Right now, over the last week or so, so if I saw some comments here, 25 basis points is basically a quarter drop. So what we've seen is that markets have already adjusted their interest rates based on the Fed dropping their interest rate. So it was already been baked into pricing. And ironically enough, after they made the official announcement, we already saw 10-year treasuries ticking back upwards, which if you guys don't remember last year, I think it was like October, September, rates are supposed to drop like a quarter. They dropped a half, and it had the exact opposite effect. Rates went up, which was crazy, right? So that's one of the big myths out there for folks is just because you're seeing the Fed drop its rate, it doesn't necessarily correlate to you seeing big interest rate drops. But still, if you're getting hit up, and I'm sure a lot of people have been getting hit up like crazy about refinancing, which I could dive into if people got questions about it. Really, if you're like at a 6.25, 6.5 or higher, then I would definitely say reach out because you might be able to save some money.
Right. And here's the thing. The Fed drops the rate. That's awesome. Why are they dropping the rate? They're dropping the rate because the economy is kind of sluggish. So they want to encourage people to go spend. So dropping that Fed rate, what it effectively does is it makes borrowing short-term money cheaper. And like David said, when he's talking about baked in already, what he's talking about is mortgage rates change every day, at least for prime lending. Okay. Prime lending, the cost for a percentage rate varies. That cost changes every day based on the markets. And so this information has been already absorbed into the mortgage industry and pricing on prime lending products. Subprime products, they kind of stay the same for a month and a half, that type of stuff, depending on rate sheets. So it's just important to understand that the mortgage industry has already kind of gotten there, and it's working on data that's coming out today that has driven the Fed to actually make this decision. But nonetheless, your short-term rates will become a little bit cheaper. Maybe reach out to your credit card companies. If they have you at some sort of a rate, be like, hey, look, I'm going to close my card. I'm going to go over to another place and get a different card unless you can lower my rate. In some cases, they will. So, it's the squeaky wheel sometimes can play into your favor. Now, the negative aspect to it is if you're a saver in a traditional savings account, well, we're getting back to those days of where, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to, I mean, you would make as much if you had it under your mattress type of a situation,
Right.
where the interest rate is dropping on savings accounts. So just some kind of food for thought out there with all of this stuff. But I think that the goal here in announcing this is that the economy has shifted. I think a quarter was the wrong move, because I think they're just going to cut it again. I wish that we would have seen a half, or I wish that we would have seen a quarter last time and a quarter this time to come up with a half over the last two times. But whatever. Who am I? I'm just some joker, on YouTube. So easy for me to say. But as we move forward, I think what people need to do, David, is if they're in whatever, even in the fives anywhere, is they need to be subscribing to your channel, keeping an eye on what's going on so they know to pull the trigger when need be. Have somebody else out there watching this stuff for you, which would be David through VA Housing Education. Look at the description, so forth. It's easy to hit the subscribe button and just kind of be aware of what's going on. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Clay. Clay, do you have any questions regarding a rate change
I do.
for David? And what might, what does this really mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me give the audience some contextual information, right? Jason worked in mortgages and loan in that space. I forgot exactly what your role was, but that was probably when you were my age. That's a joke.
Awesome.
Sorry. David is
It probably was. Yeah.
lender. He's the veteran lender, right? Me, I'm nobody. Okay, when it comes to home loans, I'm nobody. So yeah, I got questions. I actually Googled, and I'm not joking, I'm an idiot. Tell me about the Fed rate change. Boom, I pulled it up. And one of my biggest questions is, and you kind of alluded to it there, is since it did drop, got it, does that mean, or even does it guarantee, or is it a likely, or at least as likely as not, if you will, that it will continue to decrease? And therefore, if that is the case, which I'm pretty sure it is, what does that mean for someone who is looking, like if you have a 6.5, 6.25 interest rate, at what point do I lock in for a refinance? I'm going to contact David. I'm going to get a refinance. And then at what point am I like, man, can I wait 3 months? Can I wait 6 months for it to drop again? Like I'm not in that position because I have a 2.25 because I closed on my house the weekend COVID happened. That was by pure luck. So now I'm locked in my house and I wanted to move not that too long ago. Right. But for those who have an interest rate and do want to refinance, like how much do you gamble is my question.
And so I'll start with this. So when rates
He's
got
an idiot now. No, I'm kidding.
So when rates got down to that, 2.25 interest rate that everyone refinanced to, right? A lot of people refinanced the year prior because they thought that that's the lowest the rates are going to go. Okay, so one thing to know is that during that time, people that were already homeowners or bought homes refinanced at least once because like they bought a home within a time frame and then did it, or they owned the home for a while, rates dropped to like 3.5. Everyone's like, yeah, everyone needs to refinance right now. Then they dropped to 2.25, you refinance again. So the VA loan, if you already have it, you could do an interest rate reduction refinance loan, unlimited times technically, but it has to make a benefit to you. And I don't encourage you to refinance unlimited amount of times because you could be doing equity stripping. Okay, and I can break that down as well. The problem is that if you have, it's fear of missing out. I can't tell you that today, hey, rates are going to drop another 1% next year. The Fed comes out and makes these predictions that are always wrong. They're like, oh, we're going to drop it by this amount this year, by this time, and then it never happens, right? Or they blow their gasket and they drop it too much when investors think it's a different amount. So I would tell you that it's got to be on your individual situation. And what I'll tell you too is what I've been looking at a lot of these rates, these loan estimates for interest rate reduction refinance loans, and I'll tell you guys, they are expensive, right? So sometimes it's smoke and mirrors when you see, hey, look at this shiny interest rate, but then you don't ask all the fees associated with it, and now they just took your money, and you just stripped a lot of equity away. So it's really going to depend on your individual situation on where does it make sense. Now, if you have a chance to save money, and let's say it's $400 a month, or I just talked to someone today that's saving $900 a month by refinancing because they had an almost 8% interest rate. It's crazy. Those things absolutely make sense, because if the opportunity goes away, let's say in a month, some news comes out and all of a sudden everyone freaks out and they take that away, you have that missed opportunity. But if next year, let's say rates drop a lot, then you can refinance again. But you have to look at the cost. Florida, if you're in Florida, I would caution you to be a bit more cautious, because you do pay transfer taxes when you refinance. So it's unique.
So one of the big benefits of having a VA home loan is your ability to do the interest rate reduction,
Right.
refinance, right? But like you said, it's important to understand the big game and understand the numbers behind it, because it does get deceiving for folks, because you're like, well, I'm not coming out of pocket with any money. This is like fake money. It's monopoly money.
It is fake. That's
That's
the equity stripping. So that
yeah.
is equity. When people tell you, and I talk to people, and I'm like, listen, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not scared to do that. But they're like, oh yeah, they're telling me I have no closing costs. It's covered. You're paying for it with the equity you have. So
That's right. And people need to pay attention to that. And then also just run the numbers. I'm saving $100 a month, but it's costing me $12,000. Okay, well, how many hundreds do you need to save? How many months is that to recoup that? And if that doesn't fit into your look, nobody has a crystal ball. None of us here do. You don't with your own life. I can't even tell you. And I know I'm preaching to you, David, as the choir, because you get it all the time. I know, and I did when I was in lending. This is it. This is the house I'm never going to leave. And 3 years later, they are moving. So it does happen. Yeah, it does happen. And so, but do the best you can to go, okay, here's our situation. Really, ideally, we're going to be here for this many years. But, if things go this way, we might end up going over here, and try to really hone in on your time frames. Sometimes the house that you're in is not your forever home. And sometimes it's not the home itself. It might be the location. Maybe you're planning on moving to a different city, county, state. Maybe you're going to push this last X number of years out, and then you're going to retire in a different state. Maybe you got some family there. Maybe it's more veteran friendly, that type of stuff. I wanted to switch gears here real quick, and we can always swing back, obviously, to this. There are a lot of different things that have just kind of been, I feel like the veteran benefits world, and this includes home loans, is kind of like a Christmas tree with a bunch of different ornaments hanging on it. And we're just waiting for certain ornaments to drop off and fall. And it's like, you got a cat that's jumping up and wrangling it and whatever, and it's still hanging there. And you're going, when is this thing going to drop? It's going to drop any day. And we're just waiting. Clay, off the top of your head, what are a couple things in your mind that you're just waiting? You're waiting for it to happen with the VA, and this is just, let's just have some thoughts and conversation.
Yeah, the obvious answer is the mental health, sleep apnea, and tinnitus changes, right? They got pushed back again to December of this year. Granted, the VA doesn't have a undersecretary for VBA right now, which is a big deal. That nomination is going through right now. When I say going through, I mean politically stopped, and basically we're just seeing the same story happen over and over again. And so that's a big hurdle first, and that's my assumption. I have no idea. I can tell you right now, like from the veteran perspective, the viewers, yes, we've been talking about these changes a lot, simply to inform the veteran community. Like every time we do a video about it, more veterans know about the changes and they can plan accordingly. And then there's some veterans that are like, this is the 10th time in 2 years you said it. And it's like, yeah, but the VA is making the changes. We're just reading what the VA is pushing, right? And so it's a little bit of both, of like it's annoying. At the same time, there are veterans right now who are watching this that still don't know about the changes. And these aren't small changes. And then we also saw an update to the neurological system that was pretty much, I forgot the wording they use. I'm going to use indefinite, meaning it's not happening anytime soon. They like launched that ball down the road, which then would lead you to think, are they going to focus on changes that are 3 years, 4 years in the making, right? And I think that's a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah.
So we have no idea. Those are the biggest ones when it comes to the ornaments falling. There's another one too that I think is a big one, and it's really after the FY. Okay, FY's we got 13 more days. Which, by the way, all the people who took deferred resignation, their easy paychecks are ending in 13 days. So food for thought. If you're one of those like me, welcome to the suck. All right. But anyways, after the FY, the VA's losing about 30,000-ish employees. Okay, got it. What are the books going to look like? What are the budgets going to look like? Right. And then more importantly, what's going to happen with community care? Like community care right now in relation to VA health, I'm going to call it pure VA healthcare. That's a big ornament. It's like how many veterans are going to use community care? What's the strain that's going to put on the community? Is that going to kick back regular civilian appointments? Because then all of a sudden, it's not the VA who's the butthole, it's the veteran, right? And so I don't want to be put in the public lens of veterans are taking our health care, and then, we're going to say, the recruiting's office door was open there. Like, it's just going to start that whole thing, and it's like this fiscal year window. That's where we're at right now, so.
Right. I think that you bring up a good point. Couple of things, and I'm going to kick it to David. One, the changes that are coming, whether it be respiratory, auditory, mental health changes that will be coming. Yes, it's almost a broken record at this point, but it's something that is gigantic, and we need to keep our eye on. It will be happening. It's not that they're going to ignore it and it's just going to never happen. It will happen. They're on, number 10 of 15 rating schedules that they're changing. It's a matter of time. And the VA is just, they're prioritizing where their work efforts are with a shrinking workforce. So, there's that. Now, within all of that, there's a couple other things that are going on that we're still kind of waiting for. And one of them is the Richard Starr Act. And it basically kind of fizzled out, but now it's starting to get a little bit of a resurgence again. And who knows if it's just to, from the congressional members to just be able to, go, hey, look, I'm saying stuff. I'm really championing it, but it's already at the end. You know what I mean? So, but there has been some additional support put out there. Some congressional members on the Senate side, I've seen really starting to verbalize the importance of it again. So we'll see. I'll do a little poking and digging and, what have you on that. The other thing is, and this is back into David's wheelhouse, and under the umbrella, right, the VA is a three-headed monster: benefits, healthcare, cemetery. Under benefits is where we have our VA home loan stuff, right? And not too long ago, there was a bunch of people getting foreclosed on. And then because the VA pulled out the safety net program from COVID, people started getting foreclosed on. People ran around in circles and created a program called VASP. That got implemented, and it was in place for, about a year. And then the decision was, well, really the VA shouldn't be a mortgage servicer. So we need to come up with a different way to deal with this. The new law, which is the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act, has been signed. It's there for folks that need help, but the VA has not fully implemented it and given any sort of direct, at least to my knowledge. And I wanted to see, David, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I know you have a memory like an elephant. So I would love for you to share a little bit about the VA Home Loan Reform Program Reform Act and what it will do for folks. And let me preface it with this for everybody out there: people that say, "Hey, look, I'm never going to need that." Look, you don't know what 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road looks like. This may be something that you should know about. If not for yourself, maybe for somebody you know. It's just nice to know all of the different benefits out there. This is all in the effort to eliminate the "I wish I would have known," right?
Yeah.
So with that, David, please tell us about the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act that we're still waiting for the VA to fully divulge how they're going to implement it.
Well, they have till January to get the full details out of how they're going to be implementing it, who's going to be qualified. Because like with VASP, you couldn't self-elect, right? You couldn't just say, look, I qualify for this program, put me in, which I think is kind of crazy that they leave it up to the lenders to be able to do that. So with the new program, essentially what happens that if you you're starting to get late on your mortgage, instead of the bank foreclosing on you, the VA is going to step in and basically pay off what you're behind. They put a second mortgage on your property. So if you're behind 40,000, they're going to put a 40,000 lien and bring that current. And essentially you go back to making your regular payments, which is way different than what VASP was, because it took your entire mortgage, even if you had a 12% interest rate, gave you a 2.5% interest rate, and then the VA would service it. Right. But then they came to the conclusion of like, well, we're not servicers. The VA doesn't do loans unless it's the Native American program. They're the only ones that they do. So, on one hand, Jason and Clay, veterans feel that, well, we're of disservice because, this program was taken away. And on the flip side, you kind of have the fact that, you can't even borrow money at 2.5% anymore. So, they did that piece. They haven't fully implemented it yet, so we're going to kind of see the repercussions of that. I'm hoping that happens by December, because we just had a ridiculous amount of foreclosures. I think it's like 61% more foreclosures this year than last year because the foreclosure. I forgot what
it was
called.
Snowballing, right?
Yeah,
all the moratoriums and stuff.
Right. But we have bigger problems at hand because of everything that's happened. So, VA is a government product. Okay. Now, normally VA loans are profitable. They're one of the, it's a revenue generator for the government, where most things are loss leaders. And what people don't think about is that FHA mortgages are also government loans, and they have really high foreclosure rates right now. Okay. And why this ties in is because they're getting rid of what's called equity prime mortgages in certain markets, where it's designed for affordable housing, first-time home buyers, for veterans, right? So they're not talking about that too much right now, other than like on the back-end mortgage side of things, where they're saying like, well, all these programs that they have in place, they're kind of pulling authority because the high foreclosure rates. Okay. And same thing now is with VA loans. So what I don't want to happen, and why it's important to stay vigilant and watch your six on this, is because the VA can change its program to tighten it up to make home ownership less attainable for veterans, right? So just because you have it now doesn't mean you're going to have it later. And I always say, like, VA benefits normally get better over time, where disability gets stricter. So it's important, if you want to file. But yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I want to throw out there that if anybody has any questions, right? Any questions out there, please throw them in there. Clay is like a hawk. So, we got David with the memory like an elephant, and Clay with the eyes like a hawk. That's
Usually
great.
And
then there's me like Sasquatch.
I'm free.
He's hanging out right now. I'm doing
David.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, when it comes to, I'm looking at it from a veteran perspective, because I'll be honest with you, David, when it comes to Fed rates dropping, I don't even know what that means. Okay. I understand that it gets cheaper to borrow money. That's essentially my understanding of it.
Yep.
But when it comes to veterans who are, and I'm going to speak to a specific audience now too, right? I'm a big fan of veterans who are working full-time and receiving compensation, living debt-free. Like, that is, in my opinion, that should be the goal, right? That would be a good stewardship of the benefits that you've earned. I mean, you can go to the casino and blow it every month if you want to. You know, I've had two of my closest friends in the inventory, I'm not kidding, would go to Toby's. Toby's is a strip club right outside of Camp Lejeune. It used to be Driftwood. That changed to Platinum. Don't ask me why I still know these names after many years. But they would go to Toby's and blow their paychecks, you know, week after week after week. That's what they did. When it comes to veterans and VA compensation, I'm a big fan of putting compensation towards debt, right? And the dream that this is a dream, I think, this should be the goal for most veterans, is if you're working full time, you're receiving compensation, pay off your cars, pay off your credit cards, got it, make additional payments on your house. At some point, you're going to pay that house off, hopefully sooner rather than later. We just had a question is, I'm about to pay off my house. What good is the VA benefit, the VA home loan benefit for me? At that point, I'm like, dude, if you want to move and then rent out your house, I'm not there yet. Obviously, I haven't put too much thought towards what I would do.
You'll get there
for that audience, right? Because there are a ton of veterans that working full time receive VA disability compensation, and they're frugal, right? They're not buying Corvettes and trucks and Chargers, right? Now some are for sure, but for those that already have a home and they still have their VA home loan benefit, like what good is a VA home loan benefit if I own my home?
Well, I'll tell you this, that it's not always just about you as an individual for your benefit. Because like some people will say that, right? They're like, hey, I just bought a property, I paid it off completely. If you're not planning to ever move again, or if you don't have kids that you want to, hey, I'm retired, I want to be able to purchase this property as my own property and then have them assume my VA home loan, so now they have a home, it opens up opportunities. Okay, so the VA doesn't do home equity lines of credit, so you can't leverage it for that. And I'm always saying get a home equity line of credit, because at least if you need money, you can pull it, because the saying is always true. When you don't need money, people want to give it to you. And when you need it, nobody wants to give it to you. So having that flexibility. But I would say house is paid off. You're never going to buy another house. Then the VA loan, realistically, may not be a benefit to you. But you can leverage it if you have kids and you have a remote job, or you're retired and you can buy a house that you can move into for a little while and then have your kids assume it. That's a great way to pass your benefit on, because there's no other way to pass your benefit on to your kids. Okay. The other option is that if you buy a house, I'm not an attorney, that's my disclaimer, but I own a house and I'm doing this myself, is putting the house in a trust. So you can still keep your VA benefits, and then in there you can actually have it for your friend to be able to for your family to be able to get that home after you pass away. So it's just these are like small things that you want to know, so you set yourself for success.
I cannot wait till I'm in that spot where I get David a call, because this is the reason why we partner with David, is because the viewer right now, you can call him. There's a meeting link in the description. You're going to set a meeting time, and this beautiful bald-headed man is going to talk to you one-on-one. And I've done it the same. I've met with David twice about my own personal home loan stuff. I can't wait till I'm meeting with you and saying, hey, I paid off my house. Tell me what to do, David. So
yeah. Well, a lot of people use it for investment. You know, people say that you can't use it as an investment vehicle, but you can, right? Because as long as you live in the property, then you're able to there's no minimum time frame you have to live in. I just did a video on that. Like a lot of people think of like VA occupancy fraud, so that is a real thing, but you just have to understand what the rules are. So I drop it all in there. But yeah, I'll pop up some of these things that have come up from folks. So we got a new member, so thanks for, I'm not sure which channel, but always appreciated. And then Rob is talking about that he's heard that they may drop the rates 2 more times this year. Is that true? And I'll let you guys know that that's what they say, but that's not necessarily what they do. Jason, you've seen this before, where they're always like, yeah, we're going to drop it 3 times this year, and they don't do anything.
And the market jumps all over the place as soon as they say it.
Right. And then Yeah, some people in the comments are like, well, the rates are going to drop next month. I'm like, it's so unpredictable. And if you are that good at predicting what that's happened in the future, then I'll tell you to invest in the stock because you're going to make a ton of money. It's tough to kind of weigh in on that. I know
Yeah.
that people have
Right.
been on the sidelines getting back into the market, which kind of has an opposite effect. Everyone was hoping like, oh, rates go down, I can get a better deal. It's the opposite. Rates go down, more people enter the market, they drive prices up, negating any savings in the rate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, another thing just to kind of think about from an investment standpoint is you can leapfrog out of your current home into another home, get that home as your new owner occupied with your VA loan, keep your old, have 2 VA loans, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So you can have your house in a VA loan, then you could end up buying another house, moving into that other house as your owner occupied. Maybe you want to move wherever, go there, and now you have this other home as an investment property. I get it. Look, nobody can predict markets. The only real hard truth is the longer you own the home, the more likely it's going to increase in value, right? So if you own the home for a month, it could go down next month. You own it for 20 years, it's probably going to be worth a lot more,
Right.
you would think. So, you know, it's definitely the longer game, but you know, if you have the ability to do something like that, especially younger folks, right? So my son, for example, you know, he just bought his first house, and that would be a suggestion to him if he ends up, you know, transferring, going to another location, just rent his all the way out and just move and buy another house. I think that a lot of us could agree that, boy, I wish I would have bought a house or two while I was in service,
Right.
wherever. I don't even care where. 29 Palms. I don't care. Bought a house there because guess what? But there's people there that are renting. So I got renters all the time. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be in areas like that, renters that are going to keep the house going. One of the things I wanted to talk about too, and then we can swing back to some home loan stuff. Clay, the Modernizing All Veterans and Survivors Claims Processing Act. That's that one that passed the House just a couple days ago and is now headed over to the Senate to get approved. Most likely, it's going to get approved. Most likely, it's going to go to the president's desk and get signed off on. Reading between the lines on some of that stuff, I did video on it. You did a video on it. Anybody that's watching this that isn't quite tuned up, go to any of the channels and get freshened up on it a little bit. And but is there anything in between the lines that you're thinking about with some of the key things that are happening with that
There was
specific
like
piece
5
of
or
legislation?
6 bills. Is it the automation one? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's the overarching one. Yes.
Yeah. So there's, I think it's good and bad. Okay. The question that we have to understand that the bill that was passed is to allow the VA 1 year to basically get their stuff together and present a plan to Congress. So it's not like, hey, VA, use automation for everything right now. So everyone can just breathe a little bit. But what the VA is going to do is they are going to posture themselves. This is the big deal. They're going to posture themselves for automation. Okay. And some people think that's going to be great. I think it can be good. I also think it can be bad because one of the things that's going to be automated is gathering the evidence through the claims process and says, hey, here's the veteran's relevant medical evidence. You know, VA human, go ahead and do what you will. That's fine and dandy, assuming that it gets all the relevant medical evidence. And if it doesn't, guess what? You're probably done. Like that claim is probably in the water. And so you look at various systems that can process healthcare records. Veteran AI, not a plug here, has a C file parsing aspect to it. Okay. And you look at big hospitals on the private side, looking at parsing through medical records. They're not 100% accurate. It's about 90-ish%. which is great. But that 10% is like, 10% of a million is 100,000 veterans, right? Like that's a real number. VA this fiscal year just processed 2.5 million claims, and that was reported like a month ago. So it's likely going to be 3 million in 13 days, right?
Right.
And so that's the big one, is the automation on the claims processing side. And then there's another automation. I forgot what the verbiage is. It's something about pulling the relevant data for the determination to be made, right? And so this automation platform is going to show a rater or decision review officer the information needed to make the decision. The question is it accurate? All right. And is anything being left out? We can't answer that, but those are valid concerns, right?
Yeah.
And then,
absolutely. And I think
there's my cyber policy side, like I'd never used my undergrad for anything, so I guess I'll use it right here. There's a huge, anytime information is stored or through the interwebs, it's vulnerable. Don't care how secure it is, point blank, it's vulnerable. And so now you're looking at automation systems adding more access to veterans for sure, but also to malign actors, especially in the healthcare world. The healthcare world that's where money's made when it comes to offensive cyber attacks. Like there's a whole world out there that the VA is going to have to consider. So good luck.
Yeah. Some that's going to be some rough waters to navigate, is what you're saying. Yeah. And that's a great point. Even if it's something that is potentially going to make it easier and more expeditious in processing with all this stuff, there's this level of vulnerability that comes into play as well. And if it got bad, it could actually backfire and make things really bad for a period of time. One of the other things that you mentioned was where a system is essentially going to hand feed a rater the information that it believes is necessary to make a decision. And we don't know if anything would be left out. I would argue here that as a veteran who files a claim, I would like to see in my award letter, and this was what was given to make that decision, like a 1-pager or 2-pager or whatever on here's this on that specific claim that the AI system gave, so that way I could read through it and go, well, they missed this. Well, of course, that's why I got that, because they totally missed this one thing that was chicken scratch handwriting from my doctor from, when I got out of the military in 1973, right? And maybe it couldn't translate it or something, right? So that's important. That's a really big deal. A few things that I pulled up here real quick just to share with folks on some of this stuff, because it's important to understand what is happening here. Some of the key provisions within the Modernizing All Veterans and Survivors Claims Processing Act, which has passed the House and is at the Senate. The key provisions, this is just super high level. Automation tools, which is what we talked about for claims processing, which is what Clay was just talking about. Good, bad, indifferent, different anyway. So we're going to have to really, garbage in is garbage out is really going to come to play with this. If you have a computer doing it, there's no room for nuance and interpretation. It's yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And those little flags are just going to go, and then it's going to spit it out. Automated letter drafting tool, they're kind of doing some duplication of that. Improved IT systems for dependent benefits. I do personally like that. One of the things that they also talked about, Clay, was, and I'm not sure if you saw, I'm pretty sure you saw it, was that they were really going to look at the causation of death for veterans and really hammer in on that and I guess log it, right? Veteran dies. What did they die of? Was it suicide? Yes or no? Because that needs to really be tracked. And then on the it wasn't suicide, was it, and could it be service connectable, and would it lead to DIC? Now, what I would hope, and I believe should happen actually with any time that the VA is notified of a veteran's death, I believe because of what they do, and they are the arbiter of VA benefits to spouses, dependents, veterans, that they should absolutely contact the next of kin with a list of you could qualify for dependency indemnity compensation potentially, right? Not that you do, just let's bring it up to you. I can't even count how many times I have talked to surviving spouses that had no clue that any of this stuff ever existed, and they've went on for years and years and years of their life struggling financially, their kids helping to take care of them, all of that stuff, because they weren't aware of the benefits that were available to them. And for those of you watching, I get a little bit passionate about this side of the house, because look, we as veterans, we know a little bit, we don't know a lot when it comes to veteran benefit stuff. Imagine the surviving spouse, right? We don't talk about half of the things with our spouses about, navigating the VA stuff, whatever. It's like they don't want to hear it, whatever. I'm just dealing with it. I'll tell them the end result. So they only get a little snippet. So when it comes time, they're left in the dark. I'm going to tell you two things. Dependency indemnity compensation is gigantic. It is a huge benefit that must be understood by the surviving spouse. Two is survivor's pension. There is a pension benefit, and this, I hate that they call it pension. You know this, Clay. I absolutely hate it because it sounds like it's some sort of retirement plan from the VA. It is not. It is a low and no income safety net program for veterans and surviving spouses of veterans that would qualify. So this isn't a video to dive into that stuff, but it's just to let you know that your spouse has some safety net and some potential compensation benefits that could drag on after your passing. Whew. All right. Anyway, David.
It's important. I mean,
that was a fun topic.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you from a VA home loan side, that is a pretty big one because, we work with a lot of surviving spouses as well. We'll also meet them at different events that we do. And you're right. Like it's been 10 years and they had a property and they've been paying property taxes on, where actually a surviving spouse, if the veteran meets the rating criteria, doesn't have to pay those taxes. Right. So
right.
it just adds money back in your pocket for sure.
Totally. Clay.
One of the other, there was I want to say 6, 7, maybe 8 bills that were passed in the House, and they kind of just like hodgepodge them together and bang, 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 like rapid fire. And believe it or not, the votes were fairly close for each bill, but they did pass, right? And one of the other ones is something telemedicine, okay? Essentially, long story short, because of COVID, the veterans were able to get prescriptions via telehealth, right? So, and I didn't even know that was a thing. But I've received the medicine I have in my cabinet right now that I take every night, I receive because I met with my neurologist on my cell phone, right? And essentially that's ending this year. And so that bill has to pass before the end of the year, December calendar year. And so it just passed the House. You would assume that's going to move over to the Senate fairly quick and be passed, but we have no idea. So if you receive medication through telehealth, which a ton of veterans do, and it's next year and that bill doesn't pass, you better go to the hospital. That's all I got to say. So, but that passed the House. Not as many yes votes as you think. Okay.
Unanimous.
So we'll have to see what happens in the Senate.
I feel like that all the time, Clay. All the time.
I was seeing the no votes, and I've read the bill too, like in its entirety. And I was like, what are we saying no to?
Right. Yeah.
Whatever.
It's
We won't go
yeah,
down that
exactly.
hole.
The politics, right? And here's the funny thing is that sadly, I mean, I get comments kind of a lot about, political stuff.
I understand.
And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I mean, every benefit we had got created through politics. I mean, it's part of the game, sadly. I wish it wasn't. I'm pro veteran, and that's what it's about. And anybody who does something negative toward a veteran will be highlighting that. And people that are doing good things for veterans will be highlighting that. So, David, the announcement that was today, for those that may have just jumped on, the announcement that came in today from the Fed for the 0.25% drop in interest rate, I can't help but think that there's people out there that are going, okay, that directly, and I know we already covered it, but that directly impacts my interest rate today. If I were to refinance, right? So it impacts rates today exactly, basis point per basis point. We know that's not true because you said that. For people that are wondering and thinking to themselves, I might be in a position to refinance. The Fed dropped the rate, the economy's moving a certain way, things are happening. What from a lender's perspective, you're talking to these people who are thinking maybe this is going to be something beneficial. What should they do? Here's what happens. Let me throw this out there. Seems like a good time now. Let's do it. Let's get it all done today. How come it's taking so long? So that's the reality. I mean, you wake up one day and you're like, shit, I need to refinance today. I'm making 17 phone calls trying to get a hold of somebody that will talk with me, and I'm gonna do this today. And how come it's not closing tomorrow? So that's probably not the answer I'm thinking that you're going to give people. So I think that this is an important thing. So go.
Yep. No, that's a very good point, because I'll probably tell you 2/3 of the people that call me and say, I want to refinance and drop my rate. And I'm like, it's not worth it. I just tell them like straight up, like, yes, you meet the requirements, but it's expensive and you're not factoring things in. And that's, I'll kind of lay it down. So if you're like 6.25, 6.5 or higher, like it can make sense. Maybe. Okay. If you have like $100,000 balance, just stay where you are. It's just the payment's going to shift almost nothing. Typically where we see big changes like 400,000 or above, yeah, you're going to start seeing payment differences. You can recoup that cost. And another thing is that lenders, the way I look at it, at least, is I split up costs between soft costs and hard costs. Hard costs are like lender fees, origination fees, discount points, credit report, flood cert. You'd be looking at title fees, right? Those are hard costs. And then also, if you have to pay transfer tax, that is a hard cost to me, but it does not factor into your 36-month recoupment period by the VA. Okay. Then you have other things that you have to set up, soft costs, like you have to set up you have to pay for days of interest. You have to set up your taxes and insurance, things that you would have to pay for no matter what. Okay. So like right now, for example, like I'm working with somebody, they're going to save like the $900 a month. Essentially, they're going to air quote skip 2 payments. They have to prepay stuff, and I just did a whole video on it. There's no such thing as skipping payments, but it's kind of like the industry term. They're saving, so they're saving 2 $5,300 payments essentially. So that's what, $10,600. Closing costs are just underneath that, and we're rolling it into the mortgage. But what they're doing is that they're taking those 2 months that they didn't spend, and they're going to apply it as a one-time principal reduction to get them back to where they are today. And the current mortgage company is going to refund their escrow money back to them 30 days after the loan is funded, which is 3 business days after closing. So in some cases, if you do the right financial move, you could put yourself in a much better spot and you don't have all these additional costs. So you just got to gameplay it out. And I'll do that. I'm not shy to say just don't do anything. Because again, for some people, like if we're saving $100, but you're spending let's say
Right.
$6,000 in hard costs. Why are we doing this?
Right. So let me throw this out there to folks, and I'm kind of doing it without your permission, but oh well. I'm sure you're fine with it. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, look,
Can't wait.
David will help other people other than veterans. Okay, so if you have a family member, a loved one, a son, a daughter, even people you don't really like that much, but you just don't want them to borrow money from you, send them to David, right? So all that to say is that if we surround ourselves with good people that we trust, right? We actually are helping each other. This is the way life's supposed to be, right? So it's just a weird world now that we live in this kind of virtual world, but pretend for a minute that we were all sitting in somebody's backyard farm somewhere having some conversations and going, hey, you need a lot, hey, my buddy over here, and and all of that type of stuff. And that's kind of, it's weird that it's through this, but you get it. This is how we should operate, especially veterans, right? I mean, I say it all the time for anybody who actually hangs on to the end of the to the end of the video, that hey, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong. And I truly believe that, and it transcends us and goes into our spheres of influence, right? Our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and so forth. Anyway, I know that we're going to be ending this live stream at 6:30 on the dot, but I want to get in one more thing here, this next 8 minutes or so, and it is the importance of filing for your VA disability compensation and getting out of your head that, save it for somebody else. I got all my fingers, all my toes. It's not that bad. Oh, I would have had migraines anyway. I would have had arthritis anyway. My back would have hurt anyway. Get all of that out of your mind and realize the truth behind the aggravation of your military service on your body. Think about all the injections that you've got. Think about all the jet fuel or diesel that you sniffed, intentionally or not. And think about all of that and really open your eyes to what's out there from a VA disability compensation perspective. You earned it, and that's it. It's the law. It's there for you. You're not taking advantage of anything. If you cannot find a credible and competent, free accredited veteran service representative, reach out to Clay and myself through evidence-based VA claims. It's ebvaclaims.com. We're happy to help. Now, this is the part for you, David. The difference between somebody who has you serve 10, 20 years, but you've never filed a claim with the VA. You go, I don't need it. And you go get a VA home loan, versus somebody who goes, you know what? I do have ringing in my ear in today's world. Here we are in September of 2025. It's not even horrific, but it's there. It comes, it goes. Sometimes it gets a little worse, and they go file a claim and they get a 10% rating for tinnitus. How does that cascade into the VA home loan world? And it's weird because people would think they're two completely different things. But are they?
All right. So the VA for the VA home loan, you made a very good point. If you have a 10% or greater disability rating, you don't pay what's called the VA funding fee. So if you use the VA loan for the second time and put no money down, the VA funding fee is 3.3%. That's a lot of money, right? So on a $500,000 mortgage, or even $400,000 mortgage, you're still talking, you're spending $10,000 just as a fee to use the loan, right? And if you put more money down, like 5 or 10% down, the VA funding fee gets lower and lower. It's because, Jason, now I ask people, do you want to put money down? They're like, why would I? It's a VA loan. And I'm like, wait a second. There's reasons, right? You want to lower your payment, but if you don't have the VA disability, then you can do it. Now, I'll tell you that you can do this as words of encouragement. So let's say you find a house today and you're like, hey, I'm going to get pre-approved, but I'm not closing for another month. You can file an intent to file today, okay? then go on, buy your home, get charged a VA funding fee, and then another 2 years later, you finally get your VA disability rating of 10%. I hope it doesn't take that long. But for some people, it takes like 20 years. But if you, as long as they backdate it to prior to you closing on the loan, you can then get a refund. And they literally send you a check in the mail for that amount. So it is real. You just have to contact the VA, and then you can take that and then just do a one-time principal reduction, or you can use that money to pay off debt. Whatever you want to do, you can do that. You can do it with that. So that's a very important. Plus, you can use that as income. So even 10% is income, right? I mean, I don't know why you discriminate against like $176 a month. Money's money.
Right.
And then we have also a lot of veterans that can buy homes and become homeowners just on VA disability alone. Now, primarily at 100%, you could, as long as you manage that well and you pay off everything, like Clay's always saying, like manage your debt, use your VA disability for the greater good. But it's a great way to also just set financial freedom. And if you file for your disability and you get back pay, even at 100%, 12 months later, you're getting like $60,000 back pay, right? And so you can use that money to pay off that. We see that all the time too. People will get this money and they'll use it towards closing costs. They'll use it towards having reserves, right? Paying down some additional debt that they have. And like I say too, I mean, just like I said it before, like VA loans seem to get better over time. VA disability gets stricter and stricter. So it's like, why do you want to wait for that, right? And there's you're not taking benefits away from other people. You just have to figure out where you're at in life. And again, I talked to so many people that are like, I had my rating at 90% for 20 years. And then I watched your guys' channel and I decided to do it. And now they're at 100. I'm like, so you're saying you could have done it 20 years ago? That's a crazy amount of money you could have been ahead. And you're not taking away from other people. But I feel like if you don't file, they're going to reduce it because not as many people are filing.
Right. Yeah. I agree. You have to show the need, right? So show that there's a benefit that's being utilized and so forth. And that way you are making sure that it's still there for the folks in the future. I'm on the same page as you. For those that may have not understood, and I'm pretty sure everybody did, but I just want to double tap on it because this is so important. If you have an intent to play, start a loan before you close, your intent to file is in place. Then after your loan closes and you had to pay a funding fee, and then you get awarded your claim and it gets backdated to before your loan closed, you will get refunded that whole funding fee, which is just gigantic. Clay, over to you. Any thoughts here in the last minute?
Yeah, it went back to like our sphere of influence. I have recommended so many people to David that they weren't in the position. Let me just say it like this, okay? They weren't in a position where David was going to benefit from it personally, but he still helped them. All right. Like that is why we say he's like the premier veteran lender. My wife's friend, she lives down in Orlando. I hooked her up with David to talk. David didn't get anything out of it. I'm sorry, David. Anyways, but she flew up here. She flew up here last night. Not kidding. True story. We had dinner with her last night, and one of the first things she said was, "Hey, man, thanks for hooking me up with David. Like he really helped me. I'm sorry I couldn't go through with him." And I was like, "Hey, that's what he does." And she's not a veteran. She's my wife's friend, and to be honest with you, if she's watching this, I hope not, because I kind of don't even like her. But anyway, no, I'm kidding, right? But that's why we have David on the channel. He's a genuine good dude. There are a lot of claim companies out there. There are a lot of VA home loan people out there that put money over the veteran. Although their marketing says the opposite. So just food for thought.
Yeah. All right.
He's still in the guard for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, that's all I got.
I only got a couple years left. So
okay, let's speed that up, dude.
Yeah. So you could be an official veteran. Yeah, all
I
the
know.
way. Just to get your toe out of the water. So, hey,
Soon,
with
my
that,
friends.
we're going to go ahead and end it. We really do appreciate everybody joining us. We do not take any of this for granted. It takes all of us, many hands, light work. It's about us sharing information and continuing to share it. Even after we, do this, we're still out talking to people, just like you're out talking to your friends and neighbors about different things that you may have heard and seen. And we appreciate you sharing the collective channel. So with that, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.